I'm going with I'll go with the flow. Well, welcome in, guys, to Hoops and Football, my first live video, and I've brought on Tim and Michaels for a sort of a review for the Super Draft of the 2024 class. I thought we'll go through each player because now we've officially seen every single player play a game. So I thought, why not get some fans' reviews on the players? I know some guys will probably say Taj has only played half a game, but I think, the cat's out of the bag. We know looks like he's going to be a star. So I thought, let's see what everybody thinks and how they're going so far from when they were drafted to what they are now. So if they met our goals to what we thought when we drafted them, or they gone past them. So we'll start off with Sam Lawler. So I'll go with Tim. I'll let you go first because you're at the top above Michaels, and then we'll work our way down and give everyone a chance to give their opinion on Sam Lawler. So take it away, mate.
I think with Lawler, I think obviously everyone knows he's going to be a midfielder, but I'm equally surprised at how he operates as a forward. His ability to be clean at ground level, his marking, obviously. What else is there? Also, his kicking. His kicking is very accurate inside 50. And the little thing that surprised me the most is, instead of handballing to teammates, he handballs out in front of them. So to just allow them to run on and not start with their running, just like it's a continuous run, which is probably the most interesting part. What else is there? I don't think there's much more. I mean, I do have a lot written up, but there's not much more.
Go with what you got written down, mate, and we can always add on to it as we go.
Yeah, there's just a lot. Yeah, I know we haven't seen his midfield work, but I think draft highlights or even looking at write-ups showed that he's very He's very contested driven. His tackling is probably one of his biggest strengths as well. And obviously his around the ground work probably needs to be improved a little bit, but he's very good with contested marking and he wins most of his one-on-ones as well.
I don't know if you guys agree, but do you reckon he has a bit more of a danger-esque style about him, the way he runs and marks the ball?
Yeah, I don't mind that comparison. Better kick, though. Better kick than danger.
What better?
Yeah.
Clangerfield.
Yeah, I would say the kicking is probably one thing we're probably missing right now without him being in the side. That he doesn't seem to... He's kind of like Dusty, where he keeps it at eye level, not those high scraper ones where they just go high and you're waiting for the ball to come down. So that's probably one thing I would think it's shocking about me for an 18-year-old as well. So what about you, Marcus? What do you reckon?
I mean, the mark of a good draftee, and maybe it's a little bit to do with where we're at as a side, but when you play games without him and you see fans saying, geez, I wish we had Sam Lawler out there. He would have made a difference today. That's a sign of a kid who's made a good impact. Probably hasn't been as consistent as we would have liked, but I think that's more a reflection of the team and maybe him chopping and changing positions. It's not even really a negative, but I can't wait for his handball to kick ratio to flip. Like what Tim was saying, his handballs are actually really, really good and put players into great positions. His kicking's also an absolute weapon. And I know he's doing the right thing in the team thing currently, but very much looking forward to when he starts just lasering people inside 50 more often than not. And goes without saying, we want to see more CBAs from a lot of other players, but he'll get his time. And like we've all said along the journey, this is the worst we're going to see of him. He's not ever done a full footy preseason before. So the fact that what we're seeing now is the worst of Sam Lawler is pretty exciting.
And considering his first preseason would actually end up being interrupted because he got his jaw broken in that practice match over in WA. So it's crazy to think never had a preseason and then comes in against the Carlton game and 18 disposals. Pretty much pulls a Dusty and tears the game apart by himself.
He's a freak. You could kind of see from the day he walked into the door at the club to round one, you could see that phrase, puppy fat. He trimmed down and was pretty defined. And that's with the person next to him. That's kind of where Smiley's getting to now. So he really sort of got ripped quickly. And it makes such a difference having players who are physically mature enough to step into AFL football.
Yeah.
Anything to add to that, Tim?
Yeah, I just think Uzo's protecting me a little bit at the moment. Just like
Yeah.
obviously first year player, I'd say first proper even season without playing cricket. What else was there? Yeah, I just think there's first preseason. Yeah, I think that's about it. I think we've said everything, to be honest.
Yeah, I probably, as an honest opinion, I didn't think he would come onto the scene and be as good as he was. Like, I know it's he's the number one pick, but going through this draft, I think it was like 10 people at one stage were named the number one pick. And then we kind of went with, yeah, he's our guy, but I didn't think he'd come on and, in game one as an instance, and probably maybe even the Brisbane game we had and the Gold Coast game where his disposals are, in the 20s, but he still kicks 2 goals, and it's quite impressive from a first year, and he's very good at a set shot on goal as well, which is, Richmond doesn't seem to find many of those players.
Not recently. The Gold Coast game's a funny one you mentioned that. The one thing that always stands out to me from that Gold Coast game was late in the piece. Obviously, they were chasing us down pretty quickly towards the end there, and he picked up the ball and was running into the Gold Coast back 50 just through traffic casually, just waiting for that right handball. And he was just so calm and composed for a first-year player. Where a lot of other players may have panicked and blazed away, but I know a lot of us were probably a little bit surprised he played early. But if you think back to, we always talk about it being a Chris Toshay legacy draft, there was never a doubt in his mind, very early days, that Lawler was going to be the number one pick from a long way out. And that was, like you said, there was Smillie, who was touted number one, Jagger, Foss. There was heaps of them that were going through that rank, but he just never wavered from that view.
Yeah. Funny you mentioned that too. I think
You go.
Sorry about that.
That's fine.
I think with Toshay's, when we made him the national recruiting, he had Lawler as number one in February, and that never changed the whole way, which is crazy to think about too.
So over almost when's the draft? December. So almost 12 months of saying he was the number one guy through his hamstring injury, and still no preseason.
Yeah, still standout number one for us.
Yeah.
Because he missed a few coach league games as well because of the hamstrings too. So it's not like he played the full season.
No.
But they could obviously just tell from a couple of years out. Like, they do work on this for years. But it's a great get from Toshay. And he'd be no doubt looking down very, very proud of the draft haul we've picked up.
Yeah.
So on Lawler, I just want to ask both of you this question. Do you like the comparison to Dusty? Or is it too much on his shoulders to rate him at someone I would say is probably, that I've grown up watching, Dusty was the greatest player ever. So is that too much of probably a tag to put on him at such a young age?
I can see why, but he also plays very different to Dusty. So as we all know, Dusty didn't really have much defensive to him, and Lawler does. So it's like there's one big difference, but also I think Lawler's not the type to let's take everyone on my back and let's go through. He's more like, I'd rather someone come with me, which is probably what we need at the moment as well.
Yeah. Well, if you think about that, in his draft video, he said he was the number one pick, but he was so glad that there was going to be 8 other players to come along with him, and it would take the pressure off him being just the number one pick. So
100%. It'd be terrible. It'd be terrible going in just as the sole number one pick. I know you get all the different perks with it. But definitely a lot better overhead mark than what Dusty ever was. I mean, Dusty didn't need to be fair, but it was never really one of his strengths. And as Tim said, the defensive side of his game, I think, is what separates the Dusty comparison. I know some people mentioned Petrarca. There's obviously the Dangerfield one as well. And ultimately, Lawler's going to be his own player. And I think it's just comparing traits rather than player type. He'll forge his own career. He definitely does have Dusty-isms, though. I mean, when you see him isolated forward, he's a pretty good contested mark, and he's going to be one of those players that when playing forward, opposition defenders are not going to want to be matched up against him. I've actually thought he's deceivingly taller than what I thought. I'm not sure what Dusty's height was.
What is he, 180?
I think he's 189.
188 centimetres.
Yeah, like he was essentially playing as our third key forward in the North Melbourne game, I think it was.
Yeah. I think Lawler's about 190, which is very surprising. I think that 185 to 190, somewhere between there. So it's very surprising. It's not just that he's tall, but he's solidly built from the shoulders down. Like
It's crazy. I've seen some of the training photos of him running, and you just look at him and go, it looks like his arms are the size of my legs.
Yeah.
So it's not just the whole. He's like a what do you call it? Luke Trainor, where he's that real tall and skinny. He's tall and solid generally. So it's quite impressive to be 18 and kind of jealous that I wish I was 18 and that big.
I think we all are.
Yeah. May have had an AFL career if I was.
Yeah.
So we'll move on from Law to Josh Smillie. I was quite excited we got Josh just because it's the he said he was the rare draftee because he was a 195 centimeter midfielder. And he can go forward and he can go back. So that was quite surprising. Obviously we haven't seen much of him this year, and when he has played, we can see that his fitness isn't quite to AFL standard. But I like that the club itself has taken him aside and we've pulled him away with that hamstring and given him that. I think it's a 6-week block so far, and I think they just said today it's another 2 to 3 weeks from the Serpil report. I'm not using that I word to get his conditioning right. So we'll start with you again, Tim. What do you got on Josh Smillie for us?
Well, I actually don't think he's 195 centimeters, to be honest. I actually don't think that. I saw him with his VFL debut, and he had managed to run past me. And I actually think he's closer to 200 than 195.
That wouldn't shock me. I tend to agree. He was quite legitimately head and shoulders above everyone else out there.
Yeah. Yeah, it was scary to see him, like, even on the sideline. It's just like, you're just looking at this big monster. Really.
He's 18.
Yeah. And he hasn't filled out yet either, so
what do you think of him when we drafted him? What was your first initial thoughts of him as a player?
When we first drafted him, let me try and word this right. His kicking was a bit like Bontempelli's. His contested work was a bit like Tom Green, you'd say, I think. But the one thing that he lacked compared to those three was his actual marking ability despite his height. So when you think about it, he's strong at the contest and he's strong away from him. So it's like, it's just, there's a lot of, I'd say, question marks given obviously his height over his endurance, his agility and all that. But he can go missing with fast-paced games. So think of like a game at Marvel. He might go a bit missing with that early on, but obviously the club will just fix up those areas basically, or just work on them so he improves them. What else was there? Yeah, as you said, he can play across all three lines really. Like I think as a 16-year-old or something, he may have played as a defender.
And I think that's what I was saying. Yeah, on the Fox review, Shifter was saying he played backline temporarily at under 16s and he was quite good at it as well.
Yeah. And then he's been thrown to half forward and even the wing at times. So like I think he's probably not the one I'm excited about the most, but like he'll excite me with being the second hands at a contest.
Yeah. Like you, Mike, what do you reckon?
I was actually not fully thrilled when we drafted him, purely based on like watching the national champs. Usually when you play the national champs, what you're looking for is the kids, when they're playing with the best of the best, to step up and take their game to the next level. And Smillie actually dropped away statistically and impact-wise in the Champs Carnival. And I was just getting these really bad vibes that, he was dominating in the Coates League normal games when he was against kind of a big mixed bag of talent, but when up against the best of the best, he wasn't able to shine through as much as I would have liked him to. I could definitely see all the traits and why he was touted as number one, because he's just so big and stood out and was just able to bully his way through. So I was a little bit hesitant. And then we draft him and I'm like, I'll always get behind the Richmond players. But then you see the preseason stuff unfold and you're like, shit, this kid is actually going to be good once his body adjusts to AFL football. And I feel bad for him with what he's gone through with the hamstrings and all that kind of stuff. Like I've made a few videos about it, but we're essentially have been asking him to run AFL, VFL midfield kilometers as a key forward or bigger. And he's just not ready to do that yet. So I think what they've done now is the right call to strip some weight to get him into a bit more better conditioned. And I won't be surprised if he comes back if he goes into AFL quicker than what he was maybe planned on. But yeah, to Tim's point, that first game he played, he was quite literally head and shoulders above everyone else. And it's probably the first time I've seen a first-year player at VFL level get tagged and targeted as much as he did. Yeah. I think that just goes to show how important and how valuable other teams think he actually is. And look, he never really took a game by the scruff of the neck in his VFL stints, but he's working away, and he's very, very similar to Lawler in the sense that he's very good at getting those release handballs to the players in the right spots. I wouldn't be against seeing him, if he's playing VFL, I wouldn't be against seeing him do stints off halfback just to utilize his kicking, because it's such a beautiful kick of the ball. But I can also understand why you'd want to put him straight in the guts and let him do his thing there too.
Yeah. Funny you mention about his coats and all that. I know playing for Eastern Rangers isn't typically one of the strongest sides, so I think he got tagged in a lot of games and then he fell away. And then by the time champs came around, you want to be informed for that, and I just don't think he was really informed. But like, I love the pick though. Like, I love the pick. Like, getting someone like that probably sets us apart, having the two bigger midfielders alone.
So of the bigger midfielders, obviously the other bigger midfielder in and around that pick that we could have maybe looked at was Harvey Langford. Was always the comparison. How do you guys feel about what Harvey Langford's performed like for the Ds? I know we haven't seen Smillie yet, but if you're trying to look into a magic ball, how do you think they're both going to compare down the track?
If I had the pick, I would go Harvey Langford, because he's a bit more of a different midfielder to what most of them were drafted. He's that left footer. He is great. He's a great overhead mark. He's very calm and collect. If you watch the Melbourne games, which I do, only because my other half of my family are all mad D's fans. I actually called my pop the same other draft and said, I reckon you guys may have just got one of the best player out of the draft. There's not many players you can see who come straight into that midfield for the Ds. And he looks like he's been playing, same as probably Luke Trainor. It looks like he's played 100 games. So if I had a choice, I would probably take Langford over Smillie. Not that I'm not happy with Smillie, but I just think Langford has that probably crazy ability to be a really good midfielder, but then probably go forward with his overhead marking ability and his core power to kick goals. And he seems to be doing it for Ds right now. So that's me. What you, Tim?
I think they're probably both very similar players. It's just that I think Smiley's kicking probably sets him apart from Langford a bit. I really think that, but I essentially think they're the same. So this draft was very, what do I say? It was very even at the top. So like you were saying, there was 10 players you could have gone pick one, really. So I'd say it was very even, and it was basically like pick your own poison, really. Whatever you thought fitted best for the club.
Well, when you say kicking, as in are you saying Smillie has better kicking, or are you saying Langford has better kicking?
I would say they're about the same, but I think Smillie has that bit more. How do you word it? I think he has a bit more. I don't know how to word it. Struggling to figure the words. But yeah, I just think Smillie just finds the better targets, and Langford just. You could say he can rush, but they still accurately kick though. Smillie just can find those little gaps in all that, and the better leads and all that too, I think.
Yeah, okay. So what do you
finesse type player?
Yeah, that's probably a good word to use, Langford. So for Smillie, are you guys happy for them to kind of either play him in the VFL, or do you want him to go straight into the AFL? So looking at what he was, but what do we want to see for the rest of the year? Do you want him to go back to the VFL and play a few games and, in a way, make him earn his spot, as in Ooze is always on about the selection integrity? Are we going straight to VFL or AFL?
Probably straight to VFL, I think, given that what would it be now? By the time he recovers from the hamstring, it'll be, 6 weeks or so, roughly?
Yeah,
from this hamstring?
Probably could be about 8 or 9 by the time he actually plays.
Yeah.
I think... Straight to AFL.
You'd love to see him straight back in AFL, but it's really hard to ignore the fact that we've seen, obviously, Taj Hotton, who I know we'll speak about later, but coming to the VFL, and you could see the impact he had on the game straight away. And we already walk away from that thinking, okay, he's probably already ready. I don't think we've had that feeling yet with Smillie, and I wouldn't mind seeing Smillie do a couple of VFL games with his newfound body and just see how he goes then. I think he's going to run so much better across the ground. He's going to be so much better off for it. And I think we'll see very quickly what we want to see. But I've got no doubt, and you can tell by the language of Uze and Serpil as well, I've got no doubt he'll see AFL time before the year's out. Maybe it looks like round 20, 21, 22, because what are we now? 16 this week. He's still got, what they reckon, 3 weeks at least. So that's at least round 19 before he starts playing again. So, yeah, maybe it's around 22, 23. I think he'll get something by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Which I'm not against that. If at down end of the year it's round 22, is there really any need to keep playing the senior players? Are you better off to kind of bring all the young players in and give them a chance to see what it's like and actually see what we have? So that's probably what I would do with Smillie. He's not going to be ready by the next couple of weeks. Is play a couple of VFL games, and then when it's near the end of the season, we know we're not going to go any higher than probably 16. So do we just give him a chance and play a couple of games in a row, which is what we should have done with a lot of players last year when we knew the season was done? Bring in the young players and give them that 3 or 4 weeks of block to see how they go. So, all right, we'll move on to the next couple of players. So I'll let Michael go first because I know he is a super fan of Taj Hotton. I'll let you go,
Hotton.
mate.
Wow,
Yeah.
He was one I was pretty keen on. I was going to say hot on, but that would have been a really awful pun in a lot of ways in the pre-season. I remember doing a video saying that we have to find a way to try and get this kid in. And the beauty of our draft haul last year is we were in a very fortunate position ultimately that we had so many picks that we could afford to take a couple of risks here and there. Whereas a lot of other teams, if you're looking at a guy who's done his knee as your first pick in the draft, you're probably going to err on the side of caution. But this kid's super talented. He was touted in the top 2 or 3 for a little while. And even his coach at Hailbury, Pendlebury, he reckons that he could have gone number 1 had he not hurt himself. Even Sam Lawler reckons that Taj would have gone number 1 had he not hurt himself. And you just have to watch the highlights of the 3 or 4 games he did play in Coates early on in the season. He's just a perfect hybrid of Edwards and Bolton. Someone else made a good comparison of a Connor Rozee / Robbie Gray, which I didn't mind either. But the VFL game on the weekend, you can just see he knows he's got great footy IQ. I mean, that half volley pickup was unbelievable. His work rate from one end of the ground to the other in his first game back in a chain possession of 4 or 5, kicks and handballs, hits his targets inside 50. As soon as he gets match fit, he will not be in the VFL very long. And you can tell from the way Uze speaks about him as well that he won't last long in the VFL. And I know there's some people who reckon that just keep him in cotton wool for the rest of the year and unleash him next year. No, he's got it. We need people who can use the ball. When he's fit, chuck him in. Unleash the Hotton.
Well, that's a question for both of you from Hayden. He reckons, do you think he'll play? I'm asking the question going up against the Crows this week. As much as I think Michael would love to, I would probably be a no. I think it'd be maybe as a no. I was going to say as a sub, but that's the one thing we don't want to do.
Yeah. It'd be interesting. I saw a few people write this on Richmond's Twitter after the VFL game. I can understand the merit, like just play him limited minutes in the AFL, but it won't happen. I'd love to see it, but I'm earmarking round 17 or round 18.
So what you reckon? 3 games in the VFL, and then
you'll be
what we should have done. What we should have done with
Juddy.
Oh, what's his name? You heard his name. Juddy, yes, thank you. Yeah, that's what you should have done with Juddy. Had 3-4 games in, proved that he was good, and should have come straight back into the seniors.
Yeah.
What about you, Tim? What do you reckon of Taj Hotton?
Oh my God, so many words to say. Yeah, I just probably the best of the draft last year, really, without the ACL. Just hands down, Pendlebury said it. Michael said most of everything that I was going to say. But looking at his draft profile, a lot of people said that his work rate wasn't one of his weaknesses, but I didn't really see that in the VFL. Like, I saw long runs, like good 30-second runs from half back to half forward even. So I'm like, I don't get that profile really, like of a weakness. But yeah, very clean, very high IQ. The kick to left foul was probably just pinpoint accurate. Like
We need more of that.
Yeah.
Well, then, question for you both: with you saying how you were saying his work rate was not rated that high, but have they Serpil had a chance to adjust that? Whilst he gave him that, probably would have given that mini preseason, which they probably did for a 3 or 4 week block. Did they address his weaknesses in that whilst he was recovering, give him that ability to? Because you can see, like that photo I've got up there is quite recent. You can see where he's got his upper body strength, probably up to a high standard. How they worked on that little sprint back and forth, constant, and they worked on that as he's recovering.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't want to say the benefit of an ACL because it's never ever really one, but if there's silver lining from it, it means that they can really smash the upper body in the early phases at least while the leg's still recovering. So he does get a chance to put on that upper body size in a maybe a bit more of a quicker manner. But yeah, he's looking at it at a nice size, and they would have no doubt worked on the repeated efforts and things like that. And you know, that one at the end of the game, we did run the full length of the field. He was absolutely cooked after that. You could see him just on his hands and knees in the forward 50. But he needs to do those to get the match fitness. But it was just exciting to see him out there. And the other thing I love about the pick is when he did hurt himself in the Coates game, I think Ry Geeshan had an interview somewhere, and he did mention that we were straight away reached out to him saying, hey, no, you've done your knee, like really shit news, but we've still got you. If you're there at our pick, we're taking you. So to give him that reassurance, and again, to identify the talent, to make him feel comfortable, smart decisions from our football club. And this one's going to pay off in a big way, I think.
Yeah. Funny you mentioned that. On draft night, he thought he was going to go over to WA, even after having the phone call back in February, I think it was, after the ACL. And he's like, oh, I think I was going pick 18 or something, pick 17 in a West Coast Fremantle. And he obviously completely forgotten about the conversation we had with him.
I reckon a lot of that's because if you remember leading up to the draft, there was so much leaked information and talk about us taking Beau Allen with this pick. And it later come out that Blair was throwing out just bullshit everywhere to throw people off. We were never going for Beau Allen. And I think we were just trying to, I don't know what, he was just throwing curveballs. But maybe that's why Taj just kind of glossed over that conversation because all the talk was Beau Allen.
Yeah.
Well, I will give it to the Richmond for that draft. Normally stuff leaks out pretty easy. And they didn't let anything slip at all. Like people were shocked that we got Jonty, which obviously he's our next player, but a lot of people were so shocked at some of the players. But we also had the ability to take a risk on a Taj Hotton. And there was the whole talk of he was a top 5 prospect. And to me, I love that we took it's not a gamble because I think the upside for him is so high, but it was the whole, we've gave him that reassurance that when he hurt himself, don't worry, you've done enough in our eyes that if we can get you, we'll take you. And to me, that just shows loyalty. And to me, that wouldn't surprise me if we never see Taj. If he obviously ends up being a superstar, which we all hope, I reckon he'll never leave Richmond just because of the loyalty we showed when he was down and out.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
To me, it means a lot to a player. You look at the players these days, they feel real bad that they get passed on. Like, well, Murphy Reid, here you go. John was saying here on the draft night, I wanted Murphy instead of Hotton. Everyone's already heard that Murphy Reid is really angry at Richmond for not taking him. So the resentment they use to try and play better against certain teams is definitely real. So hopefully this is the opposite, where he wants to prove himself and becomes better than we ever thought he would be.
Yeah, he'll be a gun. He'll be the perfect cog to our midfield that we need.
Yeah, I think he pairs well with Lawler and Smillie a lot.
I was going to ask that question. Where do you guys see him playing say when he does come into the AFL, or in the next couple of years, where do you see Taj playing?
Do you want me to go first? Or
yeah, you go, mate.
Yeah, probably half forward at first. Obviously, due to coming off an ACL, and there's a lot of match fitness that isn't there. But I think he might be able to do a little bit like Lawler has done, just push up to stoppages or like not the centre bounces for Taj, obviously not early on, but I think he can push up to the stoppages like he did with the VFL. And even then, like, he even surprised me with that too. In his first game, he's already pushing up to a stoppage. It's like, what is going on here?
Yeah, I think early days, like, we'd obviously love him to play in the middle straight away. I think I want him to get stints in the middle, but also want plenty of other players to get stints there as well, which never happens. But I agree with Tim. I think half forward, pushing up the ground, kind of similar to what Seth Campbell's doing, how you see him at stoppages up around the ground as well now. I mean, him, Hotton and Campbell around stoppages at any part of the ground is a really good prospect to have. Guys that are fleet-footed, good ball users, can actually extract it and get it out quickly. Maybe a wing, could he be tried on? I'm not sure. He's just got so much athleticism. It's going to actually be honestly fascinating to see how we fit these kids in, because I still think there'll come a point in time this year we could see 6 or 7 of them in the one side. How that all works, I'm not too sure, but yeah, I think half forward to start with. But in long term, he'll be a midfielder like what Edwards and Bolton were.
Yeah.
He loves. Well, the good thing about Taj is he loves to tackle, and as we saw, his first contest with the club when he was training, when he got his hat off, was he took down Nankervis, and he's probably not the one player that I'm really trying to go after. He's an angry Tasmanian, and it's not the player I want to stir up too quick.
No.
Yeah, well, I think also he got flattened by Trainor at one point and he just bounced straight back up. So, yeah.
Yeah, Trainor's quite rough, so I'll give him that. We'll move on to Jonty Faull. I would say as a quite surprising, considering I think when he was drafted, he was meant to be going, I think they had him going to Sydney in the 20s. But I kind of get the idea why they got him. I think, to my opinion, I think he'll play centre half forward. I think he's just quite has the ability to run up and down the ground, probably like prime Lynch, in my opinion. I think he needs to work on his goal kicking a little bit. Like I love his effort, I love his aggression, but it's just you watch him and he kicks a ball and he's 25 meters out and he's like, I could kick that. And I feel like he just puts so much pressure on himself to kick him and he ends up shanking him. So it's just a bit of a pet peeve with Jonty. I'm a big fan of him. I think he's going to be a player. I don't know how we fit all these tools in, but I definitely can see him has impressed, and he's improving every single game as well. So I'll let you go, Tim, on Jonty Faull.
Yeah, I think you pretty much said everything I was going to say, actually. His goal kicking accuracy needs work, obviously, but his kicking routine's probably almost flawless, which is surprising. So I think it's just trying to adjust to AFL grounds with the crowd noises and everything. I think, not 100% sure, but I think that's what it is.
What about you, Michaels?
Jonty was interesting. I remember on draft night that obviously all the hype was on Harry Armstrong as the best key forward. And I remember Grock telling us for ages that no, we're dead set on Jonty Faull. And then you mentioned Sydney, funnily enough, and it turns out they are filthy that we took him with that pick because they were super hot on him to get him up there, which is funny because they probably do need another key forward. He actually would have probably played fairly well there, to be honest. So I was a little bit surprised that we took him. Obviously had the back issues as well, finishing up in the Coates League and then starting with the club. He was one that I probably didn't expect to get game time as early as he did this year. I figured he would at some point, but I kind of was thinking maybe towards the back half of the year after he just kind of integrated himself back into training in VFL and whatnot. But you can see why they picked him where they picked him. Loves the contest, an absolute animal. The goal kicking, as you noted, not great at the moment. It'll come. I just think it's honestly just the pressure is mounting on everyone who has a shot for goal in these last few games. The pressure is there. So hopefully he breaks that soon. But you can just see how competitive he is. And whilst I don't think there's room for both he and Sims right now on the same side, just as a personal view, I think down the track in 3 or 4 years' time, once they get the fitness and the understanding of the game plan, all that kind of stuff, he's going to be fun to watch. He's going to be a dangerous forward. He's got typically good hands, but it's also his ground level stuff as well. I mean, that Ed Richards chase down the other week or last week, it was really, really good anticipation of where the ball was going. And Ed Richards is quick. And Jonty got there in a flash and brought him down. He's done it a couple of times this year too. So I do like that he's quite nimble and has pretty neat skills as well by foot for a big guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a question there for you guys both to try and what your opinion is on this one. What do you reckon, Tim?
I think when Lafau's ready, he might get dropped then. I'm not 100% sure which way we're going to go with it, though. I just think we need someone a bit more senior to pair with Lynch. Obviously, Lynch has his own struggles. I think having Sims there helps out Nankervis a bit more. So I think it might be Faull who spends a little bit of time in the VFL.
So do you think Jonty's just going to be unlucky because we need that bigger body, like a Cowtie needs to come in, I think, as well. I think you said that as well, Michael, aren't
you? Yeah, I agree. We need a Lafau win. It's a really difficult, like tall forwards are such a hard one to fit in, aren't they? Because you want to get them all to 50 or 60 games quickly and give them that senior level exposure. But I just think we're robbing ourselves a little bit of bringing the ball to ground quite a lot. And like long term, they're going to be guns. If there was a way to somehow have McKelty and Lynch as your two forwards and then rotate between Sims, Faull and Armstrong for the remainder of the season, I wouldn't mind seeing that. But then it just means that obviously some of them are playing VFL for a lot of weeks. But yeah. I don't know there's any other real solution other than if Lynch isn't playing, which I don't think we can afford to do.
We've already seen a few games without Lynch, what it's like. But that could be different. That's a good one for you. But if the Faull's playing and Lynch is not there, is it going to be as bad as a drop-off as it is when Lynch is not there? Because the Faull held up quite well for what he was thrown into the deep last year playing. So if you bring in Lynch, like the Faull played, 10 games, I think it was, before he hurt himself. And he seemed like a pretty good player playing as a key forward.
And he had no
that
help.
Changed the dynamic.
He had zero help.
No. But now he has some help. So
yeah,
I look forward to seeing what Jonty ends up being in the end. I think he's going to be a damaging forward. I'd hate to be a player who's doesn't know he's coming because he goes at full steam and there's no backing off at all whatsoever. He just hits you hard. And if he hits you hard.
Yeah, he does hit hard.
I would hate to get hit by him. I reckon it would he'd be like Nick Flostone after buddy Sam Darcy needed him in the head twice. A bit more pace.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move on to the next ones. This is probably my favourite, Luke Trainor. I think he was touted to go number 2. I think it's what Grock was saying on your live video, Mike, was that for the concussions, he was meant to go number 2. I think out of all the players we've drafted, he's probably been the most consistent player. I think he's averaging between like 15 and 19 disposals every game. And this week he was a lot better with his disposals. He obviously has been disposal effectiveness. Was apparently second worst in the competition. But I'm not angry because what I love about him is he takes the risks and tries to take the game on. For a player who's only 15 games into his career.
Yeah.
You go, Tim. We'll start with you again.
Yeah, he was probably the one I was most excited about. Or besides having Lawler and Taj there, I think he was the next one probably the next one I was really excited about. Like you said, his kicking's just elite. I mean, when he pulls it off, he pulls it off. But I don't mind he takes the risks early on. I think it shows a lot. And it shows that he's trying to also come into the game plan a lot more, like a lot quicker. And he shows to Uze that he loves to move the ball on. And I think that's why he got rewarded a little bit with now playing on the wing with the last 2 or 3 weeks, I think it is, or besides the bye. But obviously being a key position is a bit undersized, but he makes it work for himself at the moment, though. And as you said, with the concussions, it's why he slid down the draft, because all these clubs are concerned about it.
You say he's not a big key position, but he's 100. I know you said Smillie, you reckon it's about 200, but if you guys remember, they did a video when the players all first came in for their first day and they were meeting everyone and they're getting their lockers. There's a video of Luke Trainor and Josh Smillie standing side by side, and it looks like Luke Trainor towers over Smillie. So I'm questioning, is he really 195 centimeters? Because I was shocked. I'm like, well, Smiley's meant to be, I think it was reported Trainor was 194, Smillie was 195. And I'm like, it looks more like Luke Trainor's 200 centimeters tall. That's how much the difference in the height was.
That's crazy.
So
Yeah, I mean more body size than anything else.
Yeah.
Top height wise is
size.
perfectly fine. Like it's ridiculously tall. I had a mate who bumped in. Oh no, actually no. Yeah, I had a mate who bumped into some of the other draftees on when we're playing at Marvel, and he's like, they're tall, they're built like bricks at the moment, or like they're getting along to like towards that, and he's like, it's going to be scary when they all start playing together as a whole group.
Yeah. How about you, Marks? I know you're got the you want him to go back, don't you, as well?
I like him on the wing. I think it's probably been a little bit of circumstance. I don't think we want to upset the back six too much. But, I mean, if Caleb Smith was to come out, then Trainor's probably going to go back to the half-back role. I'm not sure how much more size I want him to put on because he kind of keeps that bit of fleet-footedness and agile nature about him. I don't think he's ever going to play on the gorilla full-backs, but he's super talented. And look, I was one that bought into the whole concussion thing during the draft saga, but the more I looked into it, I honestly spent days researching, trying to find any bit of information on these concussions, could not find a thing. So I'm starting to think, I won't say that we made it up, as in Richmond, but I think someone has mentioned something from somewhere, and the club just never corrected it. They've just let it go because it just kept building and building and building. I mean, we've seen Luke Trainor on the field so far get absolutely smashed in contests. And I'm sure everyone was like, oh, shit, this is going to be one of those times, and bounces back up and keeps going. So I start to wonder a little bit if there was anything. I think he might have had one or two early days, but not near as many as what was made out before the draft. And you could kind of tell on draft night he was a little bit gutted that he was sliding down that far because he was touted top 5 at one stage, ahead of Taru as the intercept marker of the draft comp. And the beauty of him, he's played on all 3 lines. Like, I know we see him on the wing, we've seen him up forward, but he did go forward to the national champs and kick a goal after the siren to get a win. So, yeah, he can do it. And the only thing I'll say is I don't want us to confuse him by playing him in different positions like we did with Bolter. Having said that, though, Luke Trainor's footy IQ is through the roof. So if anyone's going to be able to handle being thrown around, it is going to be him. So I don't feel so bad. But, you guys nailed it. The composure that he has. I love that he tries to take the risky kicks, even though they don't always come off. You can tell that he's ultra competitive against himself and other people. And he actually knows how to earn a free kick without using the next word of milking. He knows how to accentuate a little bit of contact. And I tell you what, he must be a fair smartass on the field because the amount of players from other teams that are getting stuck into him, he must be lipping off every chance he gets. And I'm all for it. I love it.
I was going to mention that when you said the free kick. I can't remember what game it was. And he gave away a free kick. And then the player turned around and bumped him. And then he mouthed off. And then it was 10 seconds later, boom, it was like a 50-meter penalty or something like that. And then the ball went down forward. And you must do it because he actually said it on. Did you guys watch that footy show they have on the YouTube now? They bring in 3 players and they have an interview. Well, Luke Trainor was on. Rory Lobb. What's the ball player from Collingwood? Steel Sidebottom was on there. And he was saying that when Lynch and Lobb were going at it, they reckon there was videos of him trying to sprint down to get into the fight as well. So,
that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, well, if you think about the 3 players so far, well, out of the 6, Sam Lawler, Jonty Faull, and Lynch all love a scruffle. They never seem to be, if there's a pack going at it, they all seem to be in that pack having a little yarn at each other.
Yep.
So I will move on to Harry Armstrong. I'll let Tim, you go first for this one.
Yeah. I think he's a bit. Oh, sorry. What were you going to say?
No, you go.
Oh. I think he's a bit like Faull, but he's a bit more. How do I word it? I think Faull's more your centre half forward, and Armstrong's more not your full forward, but like your second tall type, if you want to put it that way. Obviously, endurance isn't as big as Faull's and everything like that. Like everything's pretty much the same. It's just like the competitiveness and all that. I don't think there's that. I don't know how to word it. It's not grunt, but like there's not that aggression like Faull has. Like it's more like your traditional forward, I guess, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah. No, it's a fair point. You can definitely see when he runs, he doesn't have that athleticism in his body. He's more rigid, like he's a bit stiffer.
Yeah.
In the upper body as well when he runs for it. were you shocked that he slid down to pick 23 when I think originally he was meant to go pick 5 to the Ds? I think Michael made a video that he could slip to pick 10. He got blasted for making that video as well.
Absolutely smashed for it.
And then it was just kept sliding, and magically no one wanted him. I'm surprised City didn't take him. Are you surprised, Tim, that he got down to pick 23?
Yeah, I thought by all the talk was that he was going to go somewhere in the teens, I think. But like you said, there was the possibility of Melbourne, but I think Melbourne wouldn't want to go mid, then key forward or something like that, I think. So I think, I'm not surprised he slid, but I don't know why he slid though. So it was like one of those really weird draft things, I guess, like where you're being like, oh yeah, this player's going to go there. I'd like to have him. And then all of a sudden against your pick, and you're like, oh, he's still on the board. We'll take him. And it's like, well, okay, great kind of thing.
Draft night was fascinating with him because everyone was up in arms when we didn't take him with the Jonty Faull pick. And the fact he got that far was nothing short of a miracle. But the more I was looking at the upcoming picks after we took Jonty, it kind of made sense. So Port Adelaide had pick 15. So they've obviously got Georgiades and who's the other tall guy? We've got Marshall as well. So they were kind of okay for key forwards. West Coast had Oscar Allen. They got Jake Waterman as well. Obviously, little did they know that Oscar Allen's going to piss off now. Freo have got Sean Darcy. Luke Jackson plays down forward. Amos. So they've got a few names. Maybe they could have rolled the dice, but again, they've only got one pick. GWS, well, they've got Hogan, Cadman. So they were pretty okay for forwards. They had the next 2 picks. Then the Bulldogs, they've obviously got Norton, Darcy, Rory Lobb at that stage was playing forward. So all those teams in between us, and I reckon the club quietly knew or were quietly confident that those clubs didn't have the need for the key forwards. They were a chance to pass on Harry Armstrong. And then sure enough, we can, we rolled the dice in the Sydney pick though. I mean, we could have gone Armstrong at 21, but I agree. Sydney probably could have done it, but they've got McLean and I don't know, McDonald, whoever the other bloke is. But super get at that pick. And I think it might have been, was it the Essendon game? I think he might have played. There was a game where he just ran through someone straight through the middle of the ground, like going for the mark, eyes for the ball. He has no fear. Was it? Oh, it might have been round 1. You're right. It
was round 1 against Carlton, and it was on that wing, and it was actually really impressive for a first gamer. Yeah.
And I remember hearing an interview with Nathan Broad speak about Harry Armstrong, about how fascinated he was to see a key forward like thrive on body contact so much. Like usually the young key forwards try and get separation and just take marks on leads or whatever. But he was loving the bash and crash at training, and it showed in games. And the fact we were even letting him do some 450 ruck work as well at various stages. He's going to be a good player. I like he's a left footer too. I think we haven't had a left footer as a key forward for quite a while, I don't think.
I don't think I remember our left footer, to be honest. I think it may have been before me.
I think it was McCulter, wasn't it? Yeah, what's his first name? Went to Brisbane with us. I'm pretty sure he was a left footer, but he wasn't a key full forward like Harry Armstrong. He was more of the Jacob Bauer style of a forward. Pretty sure he was left footer. I cannot remember, but yeah, I'm pretty sure he was left, but that's not many at all. There's not many left footers around these days, is there?
He's a good kick for goal too, taught by Matty Lloyd, which is always handy.
Well, I was going to say, are we missing Harry Armstrong goal kicking ability in our side right now?
Yeah, say so. What is he, like a week or 2 away? Will he do VFL, do you reckon? Do you reckon he has to play some VFL? And again, there's going to be another selection headache when he's fit and ready to go.
Yeah,
I would say you'd have to at least play 2 games just because he's been out for. When did he go out? Not the St Kilda Freo after Fremantle.
Yeah, it's almost 10 or 12 weeks, isn't it? He's missed.
Yeah, it's a big block to miss for a first yearer, and like unless right now they're giving him a mini preseason, and that's one thing I'm really impressed with Richmond as a club. They've gone to give you this long timeline, but the player's probably fit to come like injury wise. Shit, I said it. I bloody said it.
Oh no!
I said it.
There we go.
Fit to come back, but they're giving him that time frame of a fitness week to come back in and build up their bodies to come in. So it's quite exciting. I would love to see him back, at least play a couple more games by the end of the season.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to come back for him, to be honest. Yeah, I think Serples, when he did his physio, like the PhD or whatever it is, he specialized in ACLs and hamstrings. So basically, with that, obviously, he's like, okay, so kids need a little bit more time, and he's allowed them that more time. But he's gone, okay, so let's say you do 8 to 10 weeks, then like normally 8 to 10 week hamstring, that you're pushing 12 to 14 almost, but the last 4 weeks are a training block essentially to get you right to play VFL.
Yeah, exactly. It makes sense. We're in no rush. We're not contending anytime soon. But just Gadusha's point in the comments, in 2 or 3 weeks, the crowd numbers at our VFL game is going to be astronomical. It's going to be so exciting. It already is now. You can already see that people are paying a lot more attention to the VFL this year, just purely on the back of the draft crop we've got in. Yeah, it's going to be pretty cool to see what that looks like in a few weeks' time as well. We got Josh Gibcus coming back as well. Who essentially feels like a new draftee. So there's plenty happening.
You'll see tons of bathrobes at that bloody VFL game when they're all playing.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go on to Tom Sims. You go this one, Michael. You can start this time.
He's probably been the biggest surprise packet for me so far. If I had to pick one player that I didn't think was going to play AFL games this year, it was him. I probably felt he was a bit on the skinnier side for his size, but I also think I was wrong. Like, I was going off maybe draft photos that were maybe a little bit older than what was reflective of his current build when we drafted him. But he's been pretty impressive to come in and play a role for as many games as he has. I mean, you look at that GWS game where he had the 7 marks, 3 of them contested. I don't think many other players in their first year have sort of marked like that before. I know it's not happened on a week-in, week-out basis, but the fact he's even going in and playing relief ruck role in the centre, and no one's expecting him to win a lot of those contests because he's against pretty seasoned players, but it's great experience. His goal was really good. He's, again, similar to Jonty Faull. He's pretty good below the knees as well. Had a couple of ripper passes to teammates inside 50. It's just a little bit of the consistency that this is why between he and Faull, the consistency or the lack of consistency is kind of what's hurting us as a team at the moment. But I can appreciate getting games into someone like Sims. The question I'm trying to wrestle with in my own mind is, does he have the height and size to become the next number 1 ruckman? Or will he just be a key, well, not say just be, but will he just be a key forward for us? But yeah, he's impressed me. Honestly, I didn't think he'd play a game, so he's done extremely well, I reckon.
Yeah, I agree with everything. Probably, my biggest surprise the most it's just the flexibility that he has as well. Like, I'm pretty sure like he can play a little bit like Nankervis at the moment already. Like how you can play like as a relief ruck and then you can sit down the line and you can actually impact contests. Like, that's all you're asking at the moment from most of the young forwards is just impact the contest. And it's great to see he's taking marks. He's doing everything right. And often a lot of the boys just get around him, like at the end of games or something like that, or even at halftime and say, you're doing your role, you're doing well, you're doing everything right. Just keep going at it. But yeah, obviously similar to Faull, just need the body size, but obviously first year's players ticking all the boxes really.
Yeah, well, is he drafted as a ruck forward or forward ruck? Does anyone actually know what he was specifically drafted for?
I looked this up. I thought it was ruck forward, but I think it actually was forward ruck. The more I looked into his draft profile.
Yeah.
But he's 199 centimeters, so it's the exact same height as Toby Nankervis. And I wouldn't surprise if he's at least grown a bit since. So is he pushing over 200 going into next year? So he has the height. Is it just the body size that he doesn't have to be a number 1 ruckman?
And how tall is Tim English? Because I still feel like he's in that type of mold. Like, he's the same height as Nank, but you would probably hazard a guess he's got a better leap than what Nankervis does. Still needs to fill out some size, obviously. But yeah, I would assume he might have grown a little bit as well. But I could definitely see a world in which he could be a number 1 ruckman. But it obviously might just not be for another 3 or 4 years until he fills out. But yeah, he's an exciting prospect. It's remarkable that we've picked as many big players as we did, and all of them seem to have landed. It just shouldn't happen. It's completely against the grain of how drafting works.
Yeah, I think, what is it? One of every 4 key forwards fail or something, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Roughly?
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it
I'm just
shocked
looking
me
at
that
you guys. I'm just looking at Team English to see how tall he is because it's a good question to ask to see what it's like to compared to another ruckman. There we go.
And it may still happen. Like one of them still may fail at some point, but early signs indicate that they're 3 rippers. And I'm looking forward to the day where we see Sims, Armstrong, and Faull in 5 years' time when they've got the size and the experience patrolling the forward line. I think it'd be quite entertaining to watch.
It would be scary.
Well, Team English is 208 centimeters.
Okay, so he's substantially taller. Okay.
Substantially, but that's not saying that Sims doesn't grow a good, say, 3 goes to 201 or something like that. But you still got Liam Fawcett as well, so it's hard because there's so much. Richmond has so much forward stock right now, and I made a video about that. It's like it's a good idea of getting so many tools in because the ratio of tools making it, I think it's like a 1 in 3 or 2 in 4. Like it's not very high because they take 4 years, like ruckman, 4 to 5 years for their bodies to fill out right. So I think it was a good idea that we took a lot this year because I don't know much about this year's draft coming up if the tools are as good as what last year's draft was.
I know a bit about this year's draft. Yeah, there's not many key forwards. I can tell you that much. Not as many as this year, as last year. Sorry.
Yeah.
So
okay. Cool.
On this year's draft, then Tim, a lot of people have toyed with the idea of going Duff Tyler. I'm not personally sold on him based on his champs game yet, but the prospect of him and Sims alternating ruck forward is of a little bit of interest. How important is it having a good ruck these days? Like I feel like in this modern AFL world, you can kind of get away with someone who does okay at ruck, but is good around the ground. Like I don't think it's as vital anymore.
Yeah, you look at, say, Fremantle with Luke Jackson, you'd probably say that's like the pinnacle. But then you look at, let me think of another team off the top of my head. Maybe GWS with Briggs. Like he's an okay ruck and they're getting away with it. So it's like, where do you draw your line currently? Because Duff Tyler's very much Luke Jackson-esque, Tim English-esque almost. Like that big, almost fourth midfielder at a contest. So it's just like, where do you draw your line? Like, do you want an okay ruck? Do you want an elite ruck? But I don't think we'll get Duff Tyler anyway.
If you take Melbourne as the other example,
that's where I draw my line on a ruckman, not paying $1.7 million for a ruck.
Yeah, you look at the D's.
Over
$1 million one of the best ruckmen we've seen in the last 10 years. I know they've obviously won a flag throughout that tenure, but you look at them now, it's not really helping them a hell of a lot at the moment.
No.
Because with Max Gawn, if you remember the Melbourne game, he went off for 15 minutes and we come storming back. So it just shows you that was just Smillie. Maybe that's just Melbourne. Yeah, like it's a good one with the ruck question, as in with Sims. Is can you play him as the number 1 ruck, and do you really need like Nankervis? Like as good as Toby Nankervis has been, the AFL has never really put him in that that echelon of good ruckman, and he won 3 flags.
Yeah.
So like Toby Nankervis is probably a pretty good example of you don't have to have the world's greatest ruckman. You don't have to have a Maxi or a Brody Grundy in his prime or a Luke Jackson. You just need someone that puts the body effort in and floats back into the back line and helps out with a mark, which Sims is, you can see, actually starting to do that when he's playing the ruck. He runs down to the back line and cuts in front, and he's got a good overhead marking ability as well. If most people have watched his under-18s game with the Northern Knights, he just seems to get the ball at its highest point. So as a ruckman, I'm all for that.
And that's what will put him ahead of Samson Ryan quickly, is his marking ability. Yeah. It's vital. It's vital.
Yeah. Or maybe he's more than one effort and giving up. I know you're a big Samson Ryan
holding
fan,
on very slim hope that he might crack the code and turn into a player, but it's fading by the hour.
I just think Sims just seems to have similar to Jonty Faull, where he just loves to hit the pack and go hard, and it's never hurts me. I'm always going to just keep getting through the pain.
Yeah.
So move on to Jasper Alga, pick 58, which was probably a surprise one, considering I think he was Cal Toomey had him going in picks like in the 30s, early 30s, going to Richmond. Obviously, we traded out and bamboozled North Melbourne for their first round pick for 2 second-round picks, which still baffles me to this day. And then we got Jasper Alga, which was that high. I think he's like a hybrid forward, I reckon you could say, where he's not short, but he's not tall, but he plays quite tall. But I'll leave with Michael because I know Michael is that's his boy. So we'll let Michael go with this one.
I think the Alga trade was a trade with Gold Coast from memory. I think the North Melbourne debacle got us Sims. But either way, the club knew what they were doing, and you were spot on. Cal Toomey did have him in the first round, and it kind of come up out of nowhere on the eve of the draft. But despite being the youngest player in the competition, he has all the tools to be an AFL footballer, and it's really difficult to not see him not making it, if that makes sense. I mean, he's a half-forward specialist. We've seen him at VFL level this year. He's played, 9 or 10 games there. I think he's had about 28 scoring shots. He's kicked 13 or 15 goals. So he knows where they are, and he'll do it in a multiple ways. Like, he'll either take a mark against the taller opponent, he can rove the pack, or he's good enough to run back towards goal and get one out the back as well. Nice set shot. He can kick the goals from the boundary line as well. Regulation for him. And obviously goes without saying, fuming that he was made sub on the weekend, which is probably a topic for another time. But I really like him, and I think that I'm probably a little bit biased towards him, to be honest. I've probably well committed to the cause at the moment. But in a point in time where we're playing Ross and Sonzi as half forwards who look seemingly lost in that role, and you've got a half forward who's playing well, ready to go, why not just put the half forward in the half forward spot and let him do his thing and let him get used to that at AFL level? So, I mean, Ross did look better on the weekend playing more midfield minutes because of McAuliffe being out. And Sondy looked okay too, to be fair, but I'll be fuming if we drop him because we set him up to fail from that Bulldogs game. I'd love to see him get 4 or 5 games in a row starting as a half forward and just see what he can do when the game's hot.
Yeah, I agree. From what surprised me, both of you said, Alga's marking ability against taller opponents is probably one big, very big standout of his game. And he just loves to get involved with the scoreboard impact through either score assists or whatever, score involvement even. He basically plays the half forward. There's no other way to put it. If you put him in the pocket, he probably won't go as well. It probably needs to be up the ground. And then, I would also agree that it's either, I'd say Sonzi probably gets dropped, if anything, if you want to continue playing Alga.
Yeah, well, someone has to come out. I think someone has to come out. I've got a weird feeling it's going to be like Caleb Smith. And then they'll Luke Trainor back there, and maybe they'll do what CB loves, and they'll put Jack Ross on the wing and bring Jasper Alga into the forward. I don't agree with it. I think this week probably needs to be a few changes, more than just one.
Yeah, but it's just a good point of difference. I will say, though, that playing Jasper will only work, and the same thing for Steely Green as well. It only works if you've got another mature body down there to bring the ball to ground, because we might get 50 inside 50s, but the opposition's marking over half of them, and we're actually taking our small forwards out of the game, so they're not actually getting a chance to do anything. And I've always felt like he's competing with Steely for the spot, and Steely does a lot of good defensive things and pressure, probably a bit better than Jasper does, but Jasper's going to hit the scoreboard more than Steely does, and he's able to take those marks inside 50 as well. So it just depends on what way they want to play their cards. But if we don't bring the ball to ground more than what we are now, it's kind of going to all be for nothing.
Yeah, basically, like we've all said, that it's high impact to low disposals. So it's it's just maximum output. And that's what I like about the pick trade for him. It was out of the blue with North completely. So I think, what was it with North? I think it was...
No, we traded a future 4th round pick from Gold Coast to get
Because Gold Coast needed points, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, so they got points for this year's draft for, I think it's 4 or 5 of their academy players coming in, or whatever the magical number is. But I will, with I think the defensive, when I remember doing when he was drafted, when they were doing the whole pros and cons of him, his con was that he wasn't the greatest defensive player. So offensively, it was great, but the defense definitely have to improve. Have you guys seen watched, I know, Michael, you watched a lot of the VFL games. Have you seen his defense improve at all during the season?
Yeah, the tackle numbers have definitely improved. So the Sydney game before the bye, I think he had 7 tackles. I think that was a big reason why he probably got the nod. But it would have been interesting to see how it would have kept going if there wasn't that bye there. But yeah, I can understand why he had to obviously get used to the defensive systems or styles and make sure there was output there. But in my mind, you need to be able to kick a score as well. Like, there's no point if we've got 3 small forwards who are just all defensive small forwards. You need someone to actually go and kick a goal or 2 at some point as well, which I know Seth Campbell does. But the goals dried up for Mansell substantially. Steely Green, prior to the Giants game, hadn't kicked one since Anzac Eve. So it was a long time between drinks in a side where we struggled to kick over 50 or 60 points. It just kind of made more sense to have someone who maybe had a bit more natural firepower flair about him.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, what's Jasper? 185 centimeters, I think.
Round about that.
Yeah, so I think what he would bring to me for the future is that he's not that what Steely Green, Seth Campbell were. They're 179, but he's not that 190. He's that middle height that we don't really seem to have, which we kind of did have in our premiership era where we had that, which was Dustin Martin, that middle height, but you also had Kane Lambert, Shane Edwards, players that could go forward that were that middle height. I just think we're either too tall or we're too small for all our players. There's none of that middle height. I think Jasper would bring that in for that player that's a effective scorer, but he's also a decent size as well. And he seems to be filling quite out well for the upper body size as well.
Yeah.
Makes me happy because I'm on the Jasper train as well.
Just got to
for
play
sure.
him. Get him on the ground.
Yeah. Well, what do you reckon the reason he's not playing then? Obviously, we're doing a review on the players. What do you reckon the reason is that he wasn't getting a game?
My theory on why he was sub, I think that it was a lot of it that was to do with and how late in the week that McAuliffe was withdrawn. I reckon all the planning and stuff had already happened and it didn't involve him playing. So I'm not sure he was ever set to play that game, but it's still shit to be sub. But I think a lot of it, the reason why he wasn't in earlier was, I guess, more to do with the defensive side of his game, which was mentioned earlier, and that Steely was doing it better. But yeah, good to see he's finally got his chance. Selection this week will be fascinating. I swear to God, if they drop him, because they just set him up to fail. You thought the socials were bad when he was made sub. Wait till you see it if they omit him.
It's dropped. Well, it doesn't make sense to me because it did the whole you're playing your first game, knock on the door, and they do the really cool. You get to call your parents.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh yeah, but you're only going to see me for one quarter, and that's it.
Yeah.
So as a rule, I think definitely that debutants should not ever be a sub. If we do that to Sims or Taj, I'm going to be just as angry. So not because it's just Jasper, but I mean in general.
We did it to, I think it was Caleb Smith last year.
Yeah.
But I think from memory, his parents are interstate and they've flown him down, chucked him in the crowd. The camera's panning to him and all this kind of shit. And I'm pretty confident Caleb came on for a grand total of about 5 minutes in the last quarter. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. What are we doing? I agree. Yeah. Make it a rule. Make it some type of bylaw or it just doesn't happen.
Yeah. All right, guys. So we'll call it there about just over an hour. Any final thoughts on the players we drafted in the Super Draft for us that you want to leave the fans?
I think we've said everything, to be honest. I just think it would be a big shock to everyone once they fully develop. Like looking at it now and then say 5-6 years time, how they've developed. And I think there'll be a lot of shocks in there.
As in good or bad, sorry?
Good shock. Like
So
seeing develop and then work through and then it's like, oh, okay, so here's where they've started and here's what they've become kind of thing. Yeah. Like as a whole group of 8.
Yeah, I find it hard to see that 8 don't make it. That's the crazy thing that 8 picks, it's normally like 1 or 2 make it if you have any more than 4. And I just got it's just hard to say that you can see 8 of them all making it.
Yep.
It could be the draft of a lifetime. I know we don't like losing, but if you were to have a year like last year, we could not have timed it any better. And I know you still got to nail the picks, but it seems like we might have done that part too. So well done to the drafting team. I think it's just a roller coaster ride. Just enjoy the ride. I know losses on the weekend suck and they hurt and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, if we fast forward to 3 years' time, I don't think we'll be talking about a Bulldogs loss by 79 points in 2025.
No. Yeah. I think if you can get enough games into these players, you could see, in the next, before I reckon when Tassie comes in, we'll be pushing up in that, 8th, 9th position, just sneakily trying to get in. And hopefully do a Hawthorn. We had that real big just burst of a year and we jump straight up. But obviously we'll have to add some players around the younger players to do that. So that's obviously a different conversation. We'll make different videos about that as who we would like to trade in and get in. But yeah. All right, guys. Thank you all for joining. Until next time, stay safe and go Tigers.
No worries. Go Tigers.
Sorry, mate.
Go Tigers. See ya.